Nir Hassan is a correspondent for the Israeli paper Haaretz, and he's focused heavily on what's happening to Gaza over the past few years, and he's joining us from Jerusalem. Nir Hassan, welcome back to the program. I just want to basically get your take on what the feeling is in Israel right now as the country gears up for elections. You know, there are a lot of opposition parties that are running either ahead or neck and neck with Netanyahu. What do you think is the lay of the land now?
Well, I think there's a lot of optimism among, at least in the last 2 weeks or so, among the camp that opposed Netanyahu and his government. Because poll after poll, survey after survey, we see that Netanyahu have no majority for his next government after the election. However, I think that this campaign is not dealing with the real issues that the Israeli society need to face up with. And this is what happened in Gaza, what happened in the West Bank. It's mostly around, I mean, the campaigns and the election is mostly around the character of Netanyahu itself and not about what's happened here in the last 2 years. This is how I feel.
So, okay, so before I get to what's happening, I want to ask you this, though, because, you know, Netanyahu promised to destroy Hamas. It hasn't actually happened. And to end the war, which I don't know whether you consider it ended, but it still continues. What do people think about those pledges he made?
Well, it depends what side of the Israeli political map you are looking at. I think it's very difficult to argue that Netanyahu succeeded with the war that he ran in the last 2 years. Hamas is still in power in Gaza. Hezbollah is still have some power in Lebanon. He didn't solve the issue of in Iran, of course. However, like in the state in Israel as well, the facts are not really important when we're coming to the campaign. What's matter is the discourse around the character of Netanyahu, around his opponents. So this is what bothers me. The facts on the ground are not on the field of the campaign. It's not on the discourse.
So let's talk about the facts on the ground. So it's been about 9 months since Trump laid out, you know, the 20-point plan to end the Gaza war. There was the ceasefire, all the hostages, the live ones were released and bodies came out. But the progress obviously has stalled. The firing and the strikes continue. And as I said, something like 1,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza in the last 9 months or so. Right. What is the status, do you think? Tell us, because we can't get in. I know you're covering it from outside, but what is actually happening on the ground? Where does this 20-point peace plan stand, for instance? So,
not a lot changed in Gaza since October, since the ceasefire went into power. The situation in Gaza, the living conditions in Gaza are still extremely tough and horrible. Hundreds of thousands of people living in tents without electricity, without running water, with no functioning sewage system, with spread of infection diseases, with bugs and rats and wild dogs all around them. There's no even the beginning of some kind of rebuilding, of rehabilitation in Gaza. It seems that all the big plans of President Trump are still on the paper. I don't see anything change there. Actually, I spoke today with someone from Gaza, and he told me that the amount of despair among the people there is much worse than what it was a year ago. when the war is still running.
Wow.
Because nothing has changed. Because and as you said, Israel expand the territory that it controlled. The IDF expand the territory under his control in Gaza and push the Palestinians to a smallest to a small area in the Muasi, and you have to consider the weather, the temperature in the tent. It's like a greenhouse. It's very tough, and it's the third summer in a row that people live in under this condition. I don't see how anything changed there, and yeah, it's really despair for me at least. Yeah.
Well, I must say the pictures are appalling. Tell me something. I don't know what the situation with Hamas is. There are reports that they might be rearming. They certainly haven't disarmed. What do you think the goal of the Israeli political and military class is? And what difference would it make if there was another Israeli government that wasn't Netanyahu, that wasn't, the ultra-right extremists in his coalition? Do you think it would make an actual material difference to solving the situation or not?
This is a very tough question because I think the next government of Israel will be better, and because I cannot imagine a worse government than the one we have today. However, I do afraid that this government could not deal with the real issues that shape our life here between the sea and the river. I just published 2 weeks ago a story about the death of children in Gaza. I received hundreds of responses from Israelis, mocking, laughing, adding laughing emojis, saying why so little, why we don't kill the children in Gaza in faster, and it's better them to die before they will become a terrorist, etc., etc. And this dehumanization, this racism, this violence in the Israeli society cannot be fixed by election. I think we need years, maybe decades, to repair the Israeli society after this government and what happened in the last 3 years. So I'm not very much optimistic to the future and the next government.
So, as you know, of course you know, because you're reporting on it, there's a massive spike, as there has been since October 7th, of really untrammeled and uncontrolled settler violence in the occupied West Bank. And, we see the results of it all the way over here. And now you've seen that some 600 retired IDF generals and colonels and other members of the military and security and intelligence establishment have written a letter to President Trump asking him to condemn the Jewish settler activity and to relay that to Netanyahu. So Netanyahu was just in Washington. Do you think there is any impact that the U.S. government or the Trump administration could have on Netanyahu? And don't forget, this whole board of peace and the 20-point plan is a result of the Trump administration and Jared Kushner and Stephen Witkoff. I mean, we don't hear anything more about that right now.
Yes, of course. I think that the Trump have a leverage, can push Netanyahu to stop what's happening in the West Bank. I think we should call it in its name. What's going on in the West Bank, it's an ethnic cleansing by definition. Hundreds of, not hundreds, maybe tens of Palestinian communities were forced to leave their villages in the last 2 years or so. And this ethnic cleansing is going on under a very symbiotic collaboration between the settlers and the government and the IDF. collective punishment that we see now in Nablus, with this Jewish terror attacks against Palestinians, with the total indifference by the police and the IDF to these crimes that committed by the settlers, and so we have to call it in its name. It's ethnic cleansing, and I do think the only way that this government will do something to hold it is by international pressure, especially from the government, the U.S. government.
And finally, what do you make of the report by the ADL, the J7 countries, that the level of anti-Semitism has spiked to a level unknown in 30 years in the diaspora? What do you make of that?
What I make of it is that I think there is first of all, we have to define what anti-Semitism is exactly, and to take out criticism against Israel, which many in the Israeli government considered as anti-Semitism, and I do not. But there is anti-Semitism. I do not ignore it. But I think we also have to see the connection between what Israel does in the West Bank and in Gaza, and those waves of anti-Semitism around the world. We have to take some responsibilities on that as well.
Nir Hassan, thank you so much indeed for joining us.